Hey y'all, it's been a while. It's been almost 2 months. So we've got a lot to catch up on. So let's get into it. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Angela. Welcome to Knit This Mess. I'm a maker in Houston, Texas. I'm a mess. My stash is disorganized. I don't keep very good records. Well, I haven't kept very good records. But we're going to talk about all of that. Let's get started. First, I want to talk about some finished objects. Then I'm going to talk about why I've been gone for 2 months, and that involves a small yarn haul. I'm going to talk about some of my plans, upcoming plans for knitting and crocheting and reading, and let's just get into it. So, first of all, finished objects. I'm wearing, and I think I may have shown y'all this in a previous video. This is my second ranunculus. It was made with, I did talk about it before, but it's made with a discontinued yarn, Debbie Bliss Amalfi. It's a cotton blend. I'm not going to link to it because it's discontinued. And I'm not going to link to the ranunculus because I'm just not. So let's start with my first finished object. I was working on this. I started this a long time ago, and it languished in my unfinished objects pile. And it is the Elton Cardigan by Joji Locatelli. And it's knit with rustic fingering and a coordinating alpaca silk blend, lace weight, from Neighborhood Fiber Company based in Baltimore, Maryland. So it's a beautiful, you can't see it as well on camera, but in person it's got a beautiful luster, and the color has a real warmth and depth to it. I just love it, but I'm not in love with the finished object. When I started it, I was smaller. I put on weight since I started it. That's how long it's been. But it still fits, but it's not really my style anymore. It's doesn't work for the way I dress, and the color, it's a lovely color, but it's not a color that really has a place in my wardrobe these days. So I am going to pass this on to a friend. Yes, and because she saw me making it and she admired it greatly, and I told her that I was unsure about it, and she said, well, I call dibs. And it's perfect for her. It even matches her hair, okay? And she's a knitter. She's been knitting for I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And so she knows she knows and appreciates the kind of work that goes into something like this. And she also understands how to take care of hand knitted articles of clothing. So I don't have any concerns that it's going to go off somewhere and get tossed in a washing machine or anything dire like that. It will go to a very, very good home with someone who will appreciate it, and it's a much more her style than it is mine. So I feel good about that. I feel good about having finished it, getting something out of my unfinished objects. It's giving it too much credit to call it a Q, but it's done and it's going away. Another finished object is my crocheted sea glass tee. This is a Woolen Pines design, and I crocheted this with an advent set from Hugh Loco Yarns, and it was their advent set from year before last, the oxidized fade, and it's quite heavy. So but I really like it, and it looks much better on than it does here. But I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. I did not, the pattern calls for folding the cuffs, and the collar calls for folding them over, but I didn't want that heaviness. I think I like it better flat, so I'm gonna keep it flat for now. But you know, you can always go back and change it later, right? That's one of the great things about crochet, is that it's so easy to add on to it. If I say I decide that I want this to be a little bit longer, I just crochet it, just jump in and crochet a few more rows, and I'm done. So that's a fun thing. But yeah, so crochet sea glass tee, and you can see all the different, turned out to be lots of turquoise, shades of brown and blue and purple in the Advent set, which was not what I was expecting based on the inspiration photograph they showed. The inspiration photograph had a big swash of pink and turquoise and like aqua, more of a cool aqua, and this looked nothing. I could not find any connection between this Advent set and the inspiration image. But I'm not mad about it. I still think it's very nice. I like the colors. I'll wear them. It's not a summer top because it is quite heavy and it's wool, but I think I'll get some nice use out of it this fall as we move into winter. Okay. Another finished object, I made this before I left on my trip to Canada in September. And this is the Fern Valley hat from Woolen Pines Design. And I only did it, it's got a kind of a, you can see it has a zigzag here, and I only did 2 sets of the zigzag. The pattern called for 3, but I was like, hat's gonna be just gigantic if I do 3, so I just did 2. And that yarn is from Fashion School Dropout. It was 2 yarns held together. And I got that yarn at Cake Palooza in 2024. And the pom-pom that came from Indie Untangled in 2024. So anyway, so I made that hat to wear on my trip to Canada, and it turned out to be rather warm, so I only wore it a couple of times. But it is cute, and I like the color. It looks nice with my glasses. So I will enjoy wearing it this winter. Okay, another finished object. Love it. Okay, so then I was going to Canada. I was in Canada for almost 3 weeks. So I took 2 projects to work on while I was there. The first one was this Musselburgh hat, which I made with unique fingering. And the colors, because of the way that they see, it's a self-striping yarn. And it's like having 2 hats, because the colors that show change a lot between whichever way you turn it, right? So here you got pinks and grays and purples, and here we got oranges and greens and turquoise. And I did a little something different on this. So at each end, at this end I did a loop, an I-cord loop. And at this end I did a long piece of I-cord, and I did a fat decorative knot, and then joined it here. So if I'm not wearing it as a hat, I can pop it on like this, and it becomes a cowl. See? So it's I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever wear it as a cowl, but I thought it would be a fun thing to try. So I finished that in record time. I started it right before I left. I started it at this end and just got far enough to get through the increases so that when I was on the plane, I could just knit in the round and without thinking about it too much while I was on the plane. And that worked out quite well. But like I said, I was finished in record time. So that's okay because I had brought another project with me. And this is the yarn, the Avalon, Pendragon Farms, Avalon yarn. I'll link it down below. But I wanted something, I got this yarn at Rhinebeck in 2024, and I wanted to do something with color pooling with it. So I found this pattern, I believe it's called the Aster Stitch, I'm not sure, but it's one of Dawn Barker's planned pooling stitches. I found it on YouTube, and I just did my own, just a long, elongated, shallow triangle, a long, shallow triangle, somewhere between a scarf and a shawl. But I wanted it to look like flowers in a meadow because it has all the greens and browns. I wanted it to look like flowers in a meadow, and I think it does. I'm very, very pleased with the result. I have a pink denim jacket, which I've mentioned here before, and I will wear it with that. I also have a green and yellow jacket that I think, and brown, green, yellow, and brown jacket. So I think this will be a little pop of pink with that jacket as well. So I'm looking forward to wearing all of these things in the cooler weather. And that is it. Oh no, I have one more. I finished another book. Aside from the mystery novels that I read from the library, I read on my Kindle, and I'm not doing squares for those. But I finished the third Southern Reach novel, Acceptance, by Jeff Vandermeer, and I did my crocheted cat square for that. So that's my other finished object. This, like I said, this is the third book. There's one more, but I don't think I'm ready to read it yet because I've been reading, I kind of read the first three, not in rapid succession, but over the last, over this last year. And it's a little too much weird all at once. So I need a little break from it, and I'll go back to it and finish out the series probably after the new year. Okay. All right. Right now I just finished a book. I have to do the square for it, and we'll talk about that next time. And I don't want to talk about it too much right now because I'll have a lot to say about it when I show you the square. And I'm also reading In the Garden of Beasts by Eric Larson, and that's coming up on being finished probably in the next week. So maybe next time I am here, I will have 2 cat squares to share with you. And I'll talk about further reading plans after that. Okay. What I'm working on now, and that is also part of my little yarn haul I'm going to show you. So the reason I went to Canada, the main reason I went was to see my friend and spend time traveling around and sightseeing and just having fun, girls trip. But the excuse for the trip was because we weren't going to be going to Rhinebeck this year. And believe me, I have been watching the videos and I have had such FOMO for the last week. A woolen affair looked amazing. So we definitely want to go next year, and definitely want to go to a woolen affair next year. That just looked so great. And also we just miss the excitement of Rhinebeck. And I don't want to talk about that too much. Let's talk about what we did do. And what we did do is we went to a couple of yarn stores, and we also went to a small yarn festival out in Pictou County, which is kind of the eastern end of Nova Scotia. So we started out in Halifax, and we went to one yarn store while we were in Halifax. It's called The Loop. And I picked up these two skeins of Handmaiden Fliss, which is a 65% silk, 35% linen blend. You can see it has some luster from the silk and a little bit of you can see the linen fibers give it a little bit of fuzz. So the colors are Kelpie and Radiant Orchid, and each hank has 400 meters or 437 yards, and it looks like a light fingering, I'd say. But I am going to make a t-shirt, a striped t-shirt with these two colors. And I think that will be a lot of fun to wear next spring and summer. Okay. Then we moved on to the Pictou Wellness Center, which I would describe as kind of a local sports complex. It's reminded me of the YWCA that I used to go swimming. Big difference being that in Canada they've got ice rinks. So and we think that probably where the festival was on the ice rink. They put like a floor down over the ice rink, and then there was room for all the booths, and they had some snacks and food, and there was a lot of quilting. They had a lot of quilting stuff along the walls, and it was really beautiful to look at, and they had some things for sale. But you know, we were there for fiber, we were there for yarn, and I picked up not a lot but a few things. Where to start? I'll just start with one of the things that I wanted to get was yarn to make a Rockhound vest, a pullover vest. It's a woolen pine. I'm sorry, everything right now that I seem to be making is from woolen pine, but it's a vest with a design, textured design. And I found this yarn. It's 100% Canadian Rambouillet from Annapolis Yarns, Annapolis Fiber Company. And this is the color Overstory, and it's 400 yards per skein. And here is my progress on this vest. You can see it's got some texture, it's got some twisted stitch columns and little fun little wrapped stitches, that kind of thing. So I am the pattern calls for doing this pattern on the back as well, but to save yarn, and I'm just doing it the back plain. I also think, just knowing myself and the way I like things to feel, I don't think I would enjoy having that on the back. Like if I'm leaning back against something, I don't think I would like the way it felt. So I am just doing the back plain and just doing the pattern on the front. So I couldn't wait to get started. I had to like when I got home, I almost immediately wound up that yarn and got started after I got home from my road trip, my second trip. Also, I'll talk about that in a minute. Also, from the Woolstock show, I went to a booth called Nerds with Needles. I keep wanting to say Needles with Nerds for some bizarre reason, so I had to be very careful. Nerds with Needles. And I got this yarn handler, and I like it because it will hold 2 balls of yarn. So if you're doing color work or alternating skeins, it's great, but you can also take this one off and use it individually. My only complaint, if you call it that, is that it's a little bit light, so I'd like more weight in the base. So I'm thinking about maybe finding some weights to attach to the bottom, something like that. I'll figure it out. But I'm really enjoying using that with my lovely green yarn. I love this color. It's very grassy, I like it. I just like it. Also, from Needles, look, I did it again. Nerds with Needles. I picked up this skein, and it was the colorway. The color is called Sea Witch, and it's got some reds and dark purples, deep purples, some lighter purples, maybe some kind of orchid stuff going on in there. A little bit of barber pole. And that looks like a lot of fun. I'm gonna enjoy working with that. I'm going to use this. This is 400 yards. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It's a discontinued base though, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail about it. But I'm going to use this as the contrast color. I'm gonna do a sweater with this yarn I bought from Teal Torch Knits. It's called Calm Before the Storm. I think it'll be a lovely contrast color for a colorwork sweater. So that's what's happening with that. And this is my newest addition to my craft room / office, is this little pegboard where I'm trying to kind of organize some of my thoughts about upcoming projects. Let's see. Also, from the show, I picked up this yarn. I wanted also to make a very pink in-your-face vest. And I picked up this yarn. I think that's pretty in-your-face pink, don't you? Doesn't get much more in your face than hot magenta from Pearl Passion Fiber Arts. Pearl Passion. And one of the things that I think is really cute about their, they have their little threads, their little thing that holds the label on, looks like pearls. It's very cute. But this is going to be a vest also. I don't know what pattern yet. Maybe I'll just do another rockhound because it's a lot of fun, and I think the stitch definition on this yarn would be amazing. And this again is 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. So it's a sock yarn. I thought it'll be a fun vest. And then I also picked up this from Pearl Passion, and it's 75 merino, superwash merino, 15 nylon, and 10% stellina. It's 420 yards. The colorway is Yay Space, and I don't know if you can see, but it's got sparkle, because I am a sucker for sparkle. And I think what I'm going to do is gather together all of my sparkle yarns and figure out which ones look best together and make a penguono, a sparkly penguono. I made myself a penguono a couple of years ago, but I did the one where you hold 3 strands of fingering together. So it's massive and it's long, it comes down to my knees, and I wear it kind of like a robe in the wintertime. But this I would do with just 1 strand and have it more like a little jacket kind of thing, but sparkly. And last but not least, at the show, there was someone who was going to be there with fiber that I really wanted to check out. I had watched the Fruity Knitting episode where they went to Prince Edward Island for the Prince Edward Island yarn festival, fiber festival, and interviewed some various vendors. And one of the vendors they interviewed was Sue Smith, also known as Paisley Defender. And I was just fascinated by the fiber she was putting together. So I had to get some of that, and I got 3 of them. And I can't wait to start spinning on these. I have something else I'm working on spinning wise that I want to finish first, but then I'm going to get to those. And my friend also bought some of her fiber, and our plan for the next time we get together is that we have to have spun all of our Paisley Defender and made something with it. So that's my challenge for the next year, because probably the next time we get together most likely will be Rhinebeck weekend next year. So I have a year to get my act together. And that was it for that show. And from there we took the ferry over to PEI, spent a few days there, mostly eating oysters, and we went to see the Anne of Green Gables heritage site, and just drove around and looked at beautiful scenery. And then we took the bridge across to New Brunswick, and we did visit one yarn shop in New Brunswick. We went to 3 Bags Full Yarn Emporium, and I got this Dancing Bee yarn, and I got 2 skeins of the color Bouquet. And this is hand dyed for them. They have a few colorways that are hand dyed for them. It is 400 meters or 437 yards of, it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. You know, the basic, your straightforward basic sock yarn combo. And I think this is going to be a t-shirt. It's not going to be a shawl, because it would wind up looking like a baby blanket. I mean, I don't know why. I'm just always drawn to these baby rainbow colors. And but I'm gonna make a t-shirt. I think it'll be a fun t-shirt. Something very simple. And that will be that. Okay, those are my acquisitions, my current work in progress. I have some other things that I've got going, but I'm focusing on this right now. There is one other thing I want to show you, but it's on the floor over there. So if you'll excuse me for just one moment. Okay. So I mentioned a road trip. When I got back from Canada, I had about a week here in Houston before I left on a road trip with a friend. We took my camper and we drove out west to New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. And we started out, we went to Carlsbad Caverns, which it was my 3rd time to Carlsbad Caverns, but it was her first. So it was really fun to go with someone who's going for the first time. And in the National Park bookstore there, I found this book. It's Knitting the National Parks by Nancy Bates, and you've probably seen her beanies before. She designs beanies, colorwork beanies inspired by national parks, right? So I have seen the kits. There's a booth at Rhinebeck every year where they have the kits, and I never get one because the kit that I want is usually, that day is usually sold out because everybody else wants it too. But I don't normally buy knitting books, and I usually pick up books like at a discount, like at a, you know, thrifting or used books or whatever. But I really wanted this. It was only $35. I don't think that's bad for a big hardback book like this. And I bought it at the park, so it goes to support the national parks, which is super, super important to do right now. And I came back from that trip with a bunch of national park t-shirts. So this I got at Carlsbad, and this was my only knitting purchase of the trip. But we also went to White Sands, and then from there we made our way up towards Moab, and we were spending the night in Moab, where there is a lovely KOA, and got the news that that the government shut down, and we were like, well, how is that going to affect us? Because we were supposed to go to Arches the next day, and we already had our reservation because they do timed reservations. And you know, I had my little national parks pass all ready to go, and we could not find really clear information online about how it was all going to work vis-a-vis the national parks. So we said, well, we have to drive by it on the way out of town. So we'll get up and we'll get there for our entry time, which I think our entry time was 10 a.m. So we'll just drive that way and see what we learn. And so we got up, and we were early. We were half an hour before our entry time. We got there around 9:30. And if you've been to Arches or driven by there, you know that you're on the highway going north, and you can see the entry and the visitor center from the highway, so you can tell without even turning in kind of what's going on. But we get there, and we get to the turnoff, and we can see cars in the parking lot. We can see cars driving up into the park. So it's open. So we just don't know if they're going to be checking the timed reservations. So we're like, you know what? What's the worst they can do? They can say, you're too early. You'll need to wait in the outside parking lot. Big deal. So we drive up to the little booth at the entry, and there's nobody there. It's open. There's nobody there. So we just go in. We get to the visitor center, and they have volunteers there working the gift shop, the park store. So we were able to spend a little money in the park store, since we weren't paying anything else. So we spent a little money in the park store, and then we drove around Arches and saw lots of great stuff. You wouldn't really know that they were closed, except that there were no rangers. Like at the places where you pull off to park and walk around and look at things, usually there would be a ranger there answering questions, that kind of thing, but there was no park personnel out in the park. And then from there, we continued on our trip. And we had one more park we wanted to go to, which was Rocky Mountain National Park. The plan was to drive across, so from Salt Lake City, we were going to drive across southern Wyoming and then down to Fort Collins. And we got about halfway across Wyoming when there was a high wind advisory and we had to turn back because no RVs under 20,000 pounds could go on the highway because of the high winds. So we turned back and drove south to Craig, Colorado, and then across to Steamboat Springs, and then through the mountains to Fort Collins. And it was fine. It was steep. Once you got east of Steamboat Springs, the driving up into the mountains, it was so steep and so long. I thought it would never go back down again. And we wound up, it took us so long to do this drive. We were driving into the dark, but we did see a moose. And that was very exciting because neither of us had ever seen a moose before. And it was off on the side of the road, a distance, which is the way you want to see a moose. It's like at a distance. So that was very, very exciting. We got to see a moose and spent a lovely day in Fort Collins. It's a fun little town. We went to a brewery. We went to a distillery. We had a lovely lunch. And we made our way south from Fort Collins to Estes Park. And the situation at Rocky Mountain National Park was very similar to Arches. We were not able to make all the timed reservations were sold out, but it didn't matter because they weren't checking that, they weren't doing that. It was a free-for-all, basically. So we did go to a park store just outside the park. They had the park store, again, being run by volunteers, and we were able to spend a little money, get a t-shirt, again, spend some money to support the national parks, and we were able to drive around most of it. There was an area up higher where it was closed, and it was unclear if it was closed because of the weather or closed because of the park closure, because it was just too dangerous. But it was pretty cold up there. It was up high. It was more than 2 miles high, and there were snow flurries, and there were a lot of people, but not too many people. We were able to get out and see a lot of stuff and make our way further south to our next stop. So yes, 4 national parks, 2 before the shutdown, 2 after the shutdown. Y'all, the national parks are amazing. They're beautiful. They're all so different from each other, and they're so important. So go online and you can shop the national park stores. Do a search, the WNPA.org stores. Those are the Western ones. They're still open, doing a business online. At least they were the last time I checked. And it's a great way to let the national parks know that we're still supporting them. And let people know that, wear your national park swag with pride. Let everyone know that you love your national parks. And that's just my soapbox. I'll get off my soapbox now. But let's talk about future plans, right? So I showed you what I picked up, what my plans are for it. But what I really need to do is go through my stash, organize my stash, make some kind of record of my stash. I've been thinking about entering it into the stash feature in Ravelry. I don't know. And I need to knit down some of my stash. I am under no illusions that I'm going to do that in the next 5 years. But I need to make a start. What I need to be doing is finishing and knitting up more yarn than I bring in each year. And I've been watching some organization de-stash videos, knitting down stash videos online on YouTube. And people have different metrics that they use. Some people do it by weight. Some people do it by yardage or meterage. I'm not that precise. I just want to be able to say, oh, I emptied a bin, or oh, I'm much more organized than I was before. I don't have things in weird places anymore. Everything's corralled somehow. So my goal, and I always get the urge to organize and the urge to do these things as the end of the year approacheth. And my goal over the holidays is to locate all of my whips and unfinished objects, and also to find all of my kits. So I went through a phase where I picked up a lot of kits. I don't really do kits so much anymore, but I have kits that I've picked up. I have one kit, the shawl kit, that I've probably had in my stash for almost 20 years. And when I bought it, it was kind of an aspirational thing. I was like, oh, I'm not ready for that, but one day I will be. And I'm definitely ready for it now. It's not that complicated. It's a mitered shawl. I'd like to do that. I'd like to make it. So yeah, I have a lot of kits. I want to corral all my kits, and we'll go through, I'll get all my kits together and we'll go through the kits together. And I'll talk about which ones I think I'm going to do, which ones I think I'm not going to do. Do I want to maybe pass them on? Do I want to cannibalize the yarn and use them for something else? I don't know, because I don't even remember what all I've got. So that's a thing we'll do. Got to find all my unfinished objects. And what am I going to finish? What am I going to frog? I did actually have to throw away a skein of yarn not too long ago. I found an unfinished object that I wanted to work on, and one of the skeins of yarn that I hadn't wound up yet, I started to try to wind it up, and it just kept breaking. It kept falling apart because it had turned into moth food. So yeah, I've got to find everything and make sure things aren't moth food. So yeah, that's coming, not soon, but over time. We're definitely going to be diving into kits. We're going to be diving into unfinished objects, diving into all the stuff that's not organized. I used to have an organizational process. I don't anymore. So going forward, trying to be more organized, thinking about, what am I going to do? Do I want to put stash in Ravelry? What are your thoughts on using the Ravelry stash feature? I'd love to hear. Anyway, I've rambled on for almost 45 minutes now. Hopefully the sound is okay. I live in a construction zone now. All the McMansions, people are buying the cute little 50s ranch houses in my neighborhood, tearing them down and building white brick McMansions with black window frames and black roofs and white walls, and so boring. So anyway, you're not getting mine. Not getting my house. Not anytime soon. Anyway, hopefully the construction noise was not too bad. We'll find out, because I do not want to have to do this video again. This is the second time I've done it, and yeah, I'm not going to do it. So anyway, I hope that wherever you are working on something that you love, you are enjoying your weather, you are enjoying your life, and I will see you soon. Bye.